I woke up paralyzed.
Who comes to you in the middle of the night?
One of them started moving towards me.
Like that.
These people sound like alien abductees.
Some of them had, like, wings.
But are they?
There's something in the bed with me.
It seemed to want to suck me right out of the room.
Are these events real? Or could these people be experiencing an ancient sleep disorder that might unravel the mystery of alien abduction? At the end of a long day, 28-year-old Tresa Price Oswald, a graphic designer from Fort Worth, Texas, was getting ready for bed. She left her light on as usual for her husband, who worked late. She closed her eyes and drifted to sleep.
I woke up and I realized before I saw anything that something was in the room.
Tresa then noticed that something strange was happening to her body.
I was paralyzed. I could not move. I can't scream. I can't warn anybody.
Facing the wall, she saw shadows.
These two small beings were beside my bed, and the thought in my head was, oh, they've come to get me.
Still immobilized, Tresa desperately tried to escape by moving part of her body.
I was thinking, I have to move. If I move, they have to go away. And I'm concentrating and trying and trying and trying so hard to move that finger. All of a sudden, one of them reached over and shut my eyes, and that was the end.
Tresa Oswald has just experienced an encounter with aliens. Once the domain of trashy tabloids and campy B-movies, belief in real alien phenomenon has saturated every level of contemporary society. A 1997 Time magazine survey found that 22% of the US population believe that intelligent life exists on other planets. Over 15% believe aliens are abducting humans. And remarkably, a 1992 Roper poll suggests that 1 out of every 50 adult Americans believe they are victims of alien abduction.
My colleagues and I have heard from thousands and thousands and thousands of people who believe that these experiences have happened to them, and we feel that they represent probably many, many more thousands out there who've had these experiences as well.
The range of people who, let's say, have reported UFO abduction experiences themselves include numerous PhDs, NASA research scientists, police officers, high-ranking military officers, doctors, lawyers.
Although they come from different countries, age groups, and social classes, most abductees recount strikingly similar experiences.
We see shadows, we see things dark, we see lights, flashes of lights.
I was sleeping. I remember waking up, and the room was just filled with white light. I mean, it was like somebody had taken a flash bulb and it stayed on.
A significant number of abductions happen at night when they're asleep. Generally speaking, they wake up and they say to themselves, what is happening here, what's going on?
You're paralyzed, you're just frozen like a board.
They are taken from wherever they happen to be, usually up a beam of light.
I vividly recall we had a bay window there at the time, and I recall becoming very afraid as I was floating going towards that window. fearing that I'm going to this window, I'm going to go through it, I'm going to break the glass, I'm going to get hurt.
We saw this huge craft, and I was surprised, you know, I still am, by the size of it.
Most of the classic details of what occurs during abductions are recalled only through extensive hypnosis. Many abductees report being subjected to invasive physical exams.
You know what's going on, and this machine's coming down on you, and
These bizarre illustrations, drawn by abductees themselves, depict frightening medical experiments and reproductive procedures.
Most people would say if this is true, if they are here and they are doing these things, then this is the biggest, most important event in all of human history, and it simply does not work to ignore it.
Though abduction experts like Hopkins and Jacobs are convinced that abductions are real, skeptics offer a variety of alternative explanations. Some simply dismiss the phenomenon as a hoax or incompatible with the laws of physics. Some scientists assert that electromagnetic fields caused by high-tension power cables, volcanoes, and other sources cause vivid hallucinations and out-of-body experiences that mimic the experience of an abduction. Some psychologists interpret alien abduction as a product of our collective unconscious or a symptom of childhood trauma. But for most abductees, these theories cannot explain their traumatic and vivid experiences.
I was hoping for a medical, psychological reason to explain this. Because, my God, it would have been much easier to just being able to get a pill. I mean, to find out that you're psychotic was a much more preferable, you know, result. Because it was very painful going through this.
I don't think I have any answers for this. I think that something's happening. That's all I could say. I really don't have any answers. I don't know what it is.
to be honest with you, I didn't want to. I couldn't explain it by anything spiritual. I couldn't explain it by anything psychological. So I just didn't try to explain it until I was forced to face it when my son and my daughter were so affected by it that they were psychologically traumatized.
Now, a new theory is gaining support as a plausible explanation for alien abduction. The cutting-edge theory is based upon a little-known sleep disorder called sleep paralysis.
I was levitated off my bed, and I was facing my window, and the curtains were drawn, and this bright light was shining in through my window.
Bright yellow light.
I remember being able to sense somebody or something behind me, like watching me.
I felt as if the thing were trying to literally lift me off the bed.
There's no way to describe them except for outlines, figures. I can't tell you any physical description. The size of their nose, I can't tell you if they had eyes, I can't tell you if they had hair. They were just two figures that were short, 3 feet, 3.5 feet. And as soon as I saw them, I flipped.
Although these people sound identical to alien abductees, they actually suffer from sleep paralysis, a strange and largely uninvestigated condition that affects millions worldwide. Simply put, sleep paralysis is the experience of waking up in a nightmare. It is one of the most bizarre and terrifying experiences known to man. Several recent surveys suggest nearly all of us will experience sleep paralysis at least once in our lifetimes. Nearly 20% will sense the presence of a threatening intruder.
I've heard footsteps, which I thought was my husband coming home.
I could see, and I was expecting to see, a ghost. He had shape that was human, but there wasn't a part of him that wasn't black and shadowy.
This big, long, spidery hand, like something you'd see in a science fiction movie.
I was kind of under some control of hers that did not enable me to get away from her.
I said, "Are you an alien? Are you an angel? Who are you? And should I be afraid of you?"
The question some researchers are now asking is, Could this mysterious sleep disorder hold the key to unlocking the mystery of abductions, like those suffered by Tresa Oswald?
I couldn't talk about it. And I didn't sleep.
The first step to unraveling the modern mystery of alien abduction is in the most unlikely of places, the past.
Why? You know, why me? Why did it attack me? Why come after me?
Tresa Oswald and thousands like her have struggled to make sense of disturbing alien encounters.
I couldn't talk about it. And I didn't sleep.
Emotionally, there's a huge range of reason why these experiences are extremely difficult for people to handle. We don't know who they are, where they're coming from, what their ultimate goals are. We don't know exactly to what extent they are physical living beings or there's some kind of robotic thing involved. We know nothing about the technology, how these things fly, how they telepathically control people, speak to people, and paralyze them, and so forth. The phenomenon is a mystery in all of its largest, let's say, most philosophical or theological dimensions.
Even for experts like Bud Hopkins, much of the abduction phenomenon remains an enigma. However, for them, one fact is clear. Aliens are actually visiting Earth and abducting humans. Although they claim aliens have arrived as early as the turn of the 20th century, abduction researchers believe UFOs suddenly began to appear in large numbers beginning in the mid-1940s. Researchers investigating sleep paralysis argue, however, that nighttime encounters strikingly similar to those of Tresa Oswald's predate the 1940s, or even the 20th century. They believe they have been happening for more than a millennium. For centuries, mankind has recounted terrifying experiences of waking up paralyzed, sensing the presence of otherworldly intruders, being moved, touched, crushed.
Throughout history and in all cultures, there are accounts and beliefs about creatures, sentient creatures that interact with humans that have special powers, especially things like being able to become invisible, pass through walls, etc. Not just ghosts and demons, vampires, elves, fairies, and all cultures have these.
These evil attackers were not regarded as fictional characters. Rather, they were considered real. For centuries, victims have written about these entities, illustrated them, and even named them. Babylon had Lilith, the flying, flesh-eating demoness from 2000 BC. Newfoundland's mischievous old hag appeared as far back as the 17th century. The blood-sucking vampire haunted Eastern Europe during feudal times.
When you look at sleep paralysis experiences over time, and you can find historical accounts 1,000, 2,000 years back. There are ancient Greek accounts. There are accounts from all over the place. What people describe happening is pretty much the same. The words they use to describe it vary.
Each culture gives its own kind of interpretation to these experiences and may change them and shape them in certain ways. But the fundamental experiences, the feeling of being threatened, the feeling that there's something in the room, seeing things and hearing things and feeling things, all of those things, I think, are wired into the brain, and they're already there. What culture contributes is some way of making sense of all of that.
In diverse cultures throughout history and in the present, there is evidence suggesting that a person's beliefs dictate his or her sleep paralysis experiences. Those who suffer from sleep paralysis and believe in witches see witches. Those who believe in Satan see demons. A case in point, Mark Brombacher, a 27-year-old web designer from Toronto, Ontario. Like Tresa Oswald, 7 years ago, Mark was the victim of a terrifying nighttime encounter.
I was sleeping upstairs, and I woke up, and it was, I'd say, about like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mark then realized that he was unable to move.
I started praying. I was like, God, what's happening to me? I could only plead in my head because I couldn't speak at the time. I could see, I could move my eyes, and to a certain extent you can move the tips of your fingers. And then as I tried to turn my head, that's when I heard that chuckle. And then immediately, a presence, a force started just putting pressure on my chest. And then things started appearing in the room. They wanted me to know that they were completely in control of me. I then felt a hand I was dragged by my ankles by an unseen force, down the hall and up the stairs. All of a sudden I was back inside my bed. I didn't tell anyone in my family about this event, and the truth is I haven't told anyone in my family about it because I don't think they're the type to believe me, but I did tell a lot of my friends, a lot of people who I was going in my church youth group at the time, like old friends from my church youth group, and I was confronted by two types of reaction. The most common was just absolute disbelief. They just didn't believe me, they would change the subject. Other people believed me and they said, oh, you gotta talk to the minister, you have a demonic problem. Those are the only two reactions I got, and I was like, yeah, this is a demonic problem.
According to Dr. Hufford, Mark's conclusion is typical.
In the US, different people will have a variety of different kinds of reactions to sleep paralysis. Now, what they experience, what they see, is not going to be particularly different based on their background. But if they are from a conservative religious background, they're almost certain to consider what they encounter as a demon. If they are in a house or a neighborhood that has a reputation for being haunted, they're going to consider it to be a ghost.
Who comes to you in the middle of the night? Demons, spirits, aliens? I was just trying to figure it out.
I thought I was being haunted. I thought I was a victim of a ghost.
When it first started happening, I thought, at the time I was a Christian, so I thought it was, Satan was trying to steal my soul and take over my body, and I totally believed in demon possession and all that stuff.
I can understand now why somebody might think aliens had abducted them, because it literally felt like something was trying to take me away.
There is indeed some cultural input into the way in which the hallucinations get worked out, organized, and ultimately interpreted and given some meaning, because that's ultimately what people are trying to do when they've had these kinds of experiences, when they've had a big impact. They want to give it some kind of meaning. Indeed, even before they personally have the motivation, that's what the brain is trying to do. It's trying to make sense.
If the shapes of evil characters encountered during sleep paralysis are influenced by one's culture, as Drs. Shane and Hufford suggest, could it be that abductees like Tresa Oswald are actually victims of sleep paralysis? Are aliens a 20th century version of the witches, devils, and vampires that plagued sleepers of the past? For answers, we investigate how alien abduction could be a myth in the making.
Ever since I was a child, I've been waking up in the middle of the night, and I haven't been able to move. And I was sure, absolutely positive, there was something or someone in the house. And it's this overwhelming sense of dread because I can't move, I can't scream, I can't warn anybody, I can't stop them from getting me if they're coming after me, and I can't stop them from getting anybody else in my family.
A few months after her nighttime attack by two almond-eyed intruders, Tresa was browsing in a bookshop at a nearby mall. There she saw the cover of the sensational bestseller, Communion, in which Whitley Strieber recounted his own harrowing abduction experience.
When I saw the cover of the book, Communion, and it has that alien face on it, it was familiar to me, and it was scary.
After reading Communion, Tresa was convinced that the threatening nighttime occurrences that she'd experienced her entire life were alien abductions.
After I read the book Communion, I probably about 95% believed that I must be an abductee. It's so anti my beliefs to believe this outlandish thing. And I didn't tell, like I'd never told my husband that I thought I had been abducted.
What she's describing here is something that many, many abductees have described almost in the same words, where she said she felt recognition and also a great deal of agitation is very interesting. She's recognizing something that's lodged in her unconscious mind that she's actually seen.
However, sleep paralysis researchers believe there is evidence to suggest that it may be the other way around.
Tresa's case is really interesting. Strieber gave specific descriptions of exactly what she recognized as having happened to her. That has a lot of power for a person reading it.
I think it's almost certainly the case that the exposure to various books and media presentations of alien abduction have provided material for people to interpret their sleep paralysis experiences.
Could aliens be the latest in a long series of human mythologies that have permeated culture and play out in people's sleep paralysis experiences?
We have no accounts of people reporting hallucinations that involve small gray figures prior to about the 50s or 60s when these things started becoming popular. As they became more popular, more and more accounts came out of people having these kinds of experiences. So I think it's fairly obvious that the availability of these cultural images has changed the way in which people have understood these experiences.
Tales of UFOs and alien abduction first appeared at the turn of the 20th century. By the 1950s and 60s, they exploded into a wildly popular genre: science fiction. 4 of the top 10 grossing films of all time feature encounters between humans and aliens. Best-selling books such as Communion and Bud Hopkins' Intruders and Missing Time, chronicling real abductions, are considered by millions to be anything but science fiction. It's the vivid content of science fiction, churned out now for over a century, that Shane and Hufford believe has saturated the human psyche. What we're witnessing, Shane suggests, is a myth in the making.
I think there would not have ever been an alien abduction phenomenon if it hadn't been for the media and the portrayals in the media, because what they were able to do is to create a few images from a few cases, disseminate them widely, and sort of, as it were, implant them in the consciousness of the culture.
We look back 500 years and we see people believing in ghosts and witches, and we're not surprised because it seems to fit with the worldview and with the social circumstances of the time. In a sense, it is, in the same way, no more surprising that today people would have beliefs about and tell stories about aliens from another planet because of things that we know and we think about the world and about the universe today.
I didn't see another presence that I remember until years later. And it was one of the worst things I've ever experienced in my life.
The encounter became a watershed event that challenged Tresa Oswald's belief about her nocturnal attackers. This time, Tresa's visitor wasn't an alien, it was a devil.
I woke up and the room was glowing and the wall was gone in front of me, and there was all of this flame and there was all of this screaming, and I could smell burning. And then this being was in front of me, and he was black, and it was as if Satan himself was standing at the end of my bed. I simply woke up, and I'm wondering, what's happening? What's happening?
The very next night, Tresa revealed her terrifying episode on a paranormal chat room on the internet. It was there that she learned for the first time about sleep paralysis. She now believes that her haunting visions may have been caused by the mysterious sleep disorder.
It just didn't make any sense that this was anything other than very bad dreams.
For abduction experts, Tresa's reinterpretation is a coping mechanism, the mind's way of dealing with the psychological trauma of an actual alien abduction.
For somebody for whom the abduction phenomenon is extremely frightening because of its unknown quantity, to find somebody who tells you very confidently, this did not happen to you because there are no such things as abductions, and that this is a sleep paralysis issue, so this is somehow a very terrestrial thing. You might cling to that explanation desperately, just as if you joined a conservative fundamentalist church and were told, no, they're not aliens, these are demons. You might cling to that explanation. I think people will cling to something to somehow detoxify the experience itself and give it some sort of rational meaning.
Both abduction experts and sleep paralysis researchers admit that these theories are based mainly on the testimony of people like Tresa. However, both sides believe compelling scientific evidence exists that may answer the question once and for all. Are alien abductions bizarre hallucinations, or are they real? Are the phenomena of alien abduction and sleep paralysis one and the same? If so, can science prove it? Based on recent groundbreaking research, scientists now believe they can explain 4 key manifestations of the alien abduction experience. The first is an abductee's inability to move.
Right down your spine, you can feel the electricity, you can't move.
According to abduction experts, aliens actually paralyze humans during abductions.
The state that a person is moved into when these events occur is absolutely an altered state, not only physically but emotionally. The body doesn't work. The person is, as it were, his consciousness or her consciousness is turned down, as if there's a little dial.
Sleep paralysis researchers, however, have uncovered promising clues about paralysis in the emerging field of sleep science. Researchers now know that there are more than 5 distinct stages that occur during sleep each night. The most dynamic and mysterious of them all is the phase of REM, or rapid eye movement. During REM sleep, dreamers' eyes dart about as if scanning random and often bizarre dream imagery. Breathing and pulse rates slow, becoming less regular. Blood flows to the genital area, creating a state of sexual arousal. And then, deep within our brainstem, a chemical called acetylcholine is secreted that immobilizes our movement. We become paralyzed.
In order to prevent us from acting out our dreams, that mechanism sends signals down the spinal column to inhibit any kind of motor activity that might be generated in our dreams so that we cannot act out our dreams.
The paralysis is a self-imposed protective measure. But when an attack of sleep paralysis occurs, a person has the terrifying experience of being completely awake, but dreaming, and absolutely unable to move.
It's like when you're in a dream and you try and run away and your feet are frozen, or when you try and scream and you can't make a sound. It's exactly that same sensation. The only difference is you're completely aware, you know you're awake, and you see everything around you.
Sleep science may also explain another peculiar phenomenon commonly associated with abductions: strange sounds.
My abduction experiences, there's a sound you hear. It's like a high static sound. You hear your voice called sometimes.
Sounds maybe of instruments, things I could pick up by hearing.
Some people will hear a tone or beeping sound. Sometimes people will hear the name called. We have no idea how that works, but it doesn't seem like it's a tone that's out there in the real world, but it's something that is played on the nerves, so to speak.
Are the mysterious sounds accompanying abductions caused by advanced alien technology? Or is there a physiological explanation? In addition to rapid eye movements, scientists have also recorded similar activity in the middle ear during REM sleep. Here, the smallest muscles in the human body actually vibrate as we dream. To sleep paralysis sufferers, these minute muscle fluctuations reflect extraordinary audio sensations.
I heard laughter. Definitely evil-sounding chuckle.
Hearing the tick of a clock.
Sometimes I felt it as if something were drilling on my head.
Why doesn't my husband wake up? Why can't he hear this?
Wondering how the whole neighborhood couldn't hear this sound. Thinking that it was insane that there weren't people screaming all over the place because the sound was so loud.
We'll say, well, it's kind of like an electric motor, or it's a bit like glass breaking, or it's like a fan, or it's like an engine. Next step, like a spaceship.
One of the most dramatic aspects of an alien abduction is the feeling of movement. The physical sensation of being taken from one place to another by the aliens.
I had feelings of floating or recollections of floating above a house and looking down.
3 aliens had come through the front door and walked me out to the front yard.
Can this phenomenon be explained by sleep science? Sleep researchers have recently discovered that REM sleep stimulates several areas of the human brain. One is the vestibular system. In our waking life, the vestibular system controls our sense of motion and balance. During dreams, it simulates movement.
When these areas are stimulated, we feel rapid acceleration, floating and flying and falling.
I felt myself elevated off of my bed, slowly elevated off my bed, and I felt some extreme amounts of energy surging throughout my body, and I began to spin all around crazily.
The most fantastic and chilling event associated with the abduction phenomenon are the alien intruders themselves.
It had a large head. I just remember little pointed feet and skinny appendages. When it moved in such an exaggerated motion. like a cartoon character would move. It kind of lifted its leg and his arms at the same time and jetted behind the wall.
Being in my bed and feeling awake yet asleep, aware that someone was in my room.
Obviously, everyone is fearful about this happening to them every night. That is to say, they think if it happens tonight, there's going to be people in my room when I'm asleep. I'm not going to know it. I mean, it's a nightmare come true to a certain extent.
Recent neuroimaging studies may now explain such nightmares scientifically. Researchers have discovered that one section of the brain that becomes wildly active during REM sleep is the amygdala. Located deep within the temporal lobes of the brain, the amygdala is the body's fear center. In a normal waking state, it allows us to instinctively ferret out threatening predators. However, awakening paralyzed in a dream state triggers this mechanism in an unnatural way, causing the victim to experience uncanny fear that takes on a sense of evil.
People will often say, well, fear, that just doesn't cut it. This is not fear. This is absolutely abject, horrifying terror that I'm experiencing. There's this feeling that there's something absolutely evil out there.
The fear level on the most intense experiences was a 10. It was, I'm going to die.
When it was first starting to happen to me, there is absolutely no comparison to the type of fear I was feeling. It was absolute, utter panic. Like, this is the end of the world, this is the end of the universe, that God doesn't exist.
I truly felt that if I did not win the fight, I was going to die in my bed beside my husband.
It is while the brain is in this fear mode that a person will supply his or her own version of an intruder.
People see many different things, and they're nearly always human or humanoid kinds of figures.
This big, clawed, ugly, black hand comes right up out of the cover, right out of the bed.
I'll wake up and there'll be creatures all over my room, just different weird animals.
I could see them moving, walking around, tell that they had arms and hands, but their faces were always somehow obscured or like just barely out of sight. I could never look at them directly right on.
Clearly the feeling that people have when they have these experiences, that it's beyond ordinary experience, so that they're not simply thought of as being scary animals in the corner of the room, but rather something that one doesn't normally encounter.
I still have the watched feeling. I still wake up paralyzed, feeling like there's someone in the house. But I have not had an alien abduction or a demon, a vivid night terror sort of dream since chatting about night terrors and beginning to educate myself on it may be a disorder. It may just be the way my brain works.
Although Tresa and others are convinced that sleep paralysis most likely explains their encounters with nocturnal intruders, others are not so sure. According to both alien researchers and abductees, there are many abductions that sleep paralysis cannot possibly explain.
You cannot distinguish sleep paralysis experiences from those initial paralysis accounts in abduction stories. They're just not different.
I was stiffened out very painfully. I couldn't move.
I know I'm awake. I know I'm in my room. I know I'm paralyzed. I know I can't move.
It's for, but almost always there's a source of light somehow that comes into the room.
I was facing my window and the curtains were drawn and this bright light was shining in through my window. And my hair.
And it had a large head, and it had, I just remember, little pointed feet and skinny appendages.
Some of them had like wings. Other ones were like short, kind of like dwarves.
The alien abduction myth is clearly just an updating of traditional stories about spirits from other places and other worlds coming, assaulting us, experimenting on us, having sexual relations with us, and so on.
The case for sleep paralysis as an explanation for alien abduction sounds plausible. But is it complete? There are several critical aspects of abduction accounts that cannot be explained by sleep paralysis. The first is the state in which many victims are abducted.
We have just thousands of cases where people are wide awake when the abduction happens, that they're out taking a walk, they're driving a car, they're at work. They can be literally any place.
It was still light behind in the dusk, and you could see the shape of this UFO.
This abductee, who wishes to remain anonymous, is a case in point. While driving in a California desert in 1981, he and 3 family members suddenly spotted a giant spacecraft.
My brother started freaking out and screaming. Although it's, hard to say this, there's absolutely no possibility this was a dream.
Another characteristic of abductions that cannot be explained by sleep paralysis is the physical trauma that abductees claim to suffer.
I had marks all over my face like I was in a fist fight. I had scratches that went back to my ear. Recently, I woke up with pin marks on my wrist in the exact same place on both wrists, and I woke up and they were already scabbed in the morning.
Abduction experts further point out that sleep paralysis does not account for documented UFO landing sites like these from Gulf Breeze, Florida, or UFOs captured on film and video.
The skeptics are, in a strange way, many of them, true believers. They believe that abductions cannot occur. They're true believers. That is impossible. Therefore, they're going to shoehorn every single case that they can find into one or another explanation to make it go away. We're saying that sleep paralysis exists, people are deluded, people have hallucinations, people have abduction experiences. Our job is to try to sort out which is which.
Tresa Oswalt, for one, is still not 100% sure.
I would say that I probably 95% don't believe in alien abduction. But I've heard some stories that from people that I know to be intelligent or know to be faithful, religious people who would not normally believe that, and so I wonder.
Although emerging theories about sleep paralysis cannot explain all abductions, they have opened the door to new areas of research that may someday offer more answers. Until then, the testimony of sleep paralysis experiencers themselves not only offers a window into alien abduction, it may suggest another explanation that transcends both theories.
We live in, a three-dimensional world as far as we know, but I think that there are other ways to tap into other different realities if you open your mind to it. Sleep paralysis could be a medium through which we can channel these other types of realities. I think that it is a stepping stone.
I don't think it's far-fetched at all to think that there is a spirit world out there, and it's not far-fetched to think that some of us may be able to see it in certain states of consciousness.
My belief about sleep paralysis is I believe that it's a different dimension that we're put in when we go into this, like the astral plane. I very strongly believe that.
Although the vast majority of alien abductees and sleep paralysis sufferers describe their experiences as utterly horrifying, many have found a way to move beyond their terror. once they understand the phenomenon and stand up to their demons.
When I learned about this, I felt there was a physical explanation for it. Finally, there was a real down-to-earth explanation for it, and I didn't have a ghost. The devil wasn't trying to possess me. Aliens weren't after me. And it was just something really simple.
I started out feeling as if I was dying, but then eventually I thought I was having an involuntary out-of-body experience. And I kept telling myself, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna let this happen, because this could be really cool.
People who, after finally, years later, finding out that it's a normal thing and that it's common, I just break down into tears with relief.
When I found out what it was, I was astounded. I was stunned. I was like, wow, there's actually people like me who have this. I'm not the only one.
I believed for years after this experience happened that this was a paranormal experience. Then I learned of the term sleep paralysis, and I thought, that sounds exactly like what happened to me. In other words, it was on a TV show, and people were giving descriptions of what happened to them. And I said, this is it, word for word. This is what happened to me.
I was so angry that this fear had to be a part of my sleeping experience that I wrote a little note. I wrote a note to my demons, and I said, bring on your torture and carry with you your fear, but remember, my friends, a battle can only be won if a fight exists. And I decided not to be afraid anymore. And that's the last paralysis dream I had.
Whether or not sleep paralysis fully explains all abduction experiences, learning of the sleep disorder gives its sufferers solace and something more.
I've turned this into a positive experience. This has sort of drawn me into lucid dreaming, which is slightly different in that when you're dreaming, you become aware that you're dreaming, but you're not paralyzed. You can move freely within the dream. And that opens the possibilities for all different kinds, you have access to your psyche.
I think sleep paralysis has allowed me to become aware that there's more to life than the physical realm.
It's pretty cool to be able to leave your body and be in another state and be able to just fly anywhere. I mean, leave the house, outside, fly. I mean, it feels like you're physically flying. Very sense of freedom, very exhilarating feeling.
I had one experience that was incredibly positive. I think it was a gift. It was a beautiful experience.
Even if there was a drug that could take this away, I would not want it to go away. As frightening as it is from time to time, it has never caused me any real physical harm. It definitely did cause me some emotional stress in the past, but I find this to be a really unique insight into either the human mind or the spirit world, and whatever it is, very few people have it, and to experience it is something very, very unique and very special. I'm definitely glad I have the opportunity to see some things that very, very few people get to see.
Today, credible witnesses continue to reveal disturbing personal accounts of alien abduction. Yet there is still no conclusive proof that answers the question, are aliens really visiting planet Earth? Sleep paralysis is one theory that proves we are capable of seeing things, going places, and encountering creatures inside our own minds. Meanwhile, researchers will continue to look inward as well as outward to find the answers to the mystery of alien abduction.